Hey guys, John Adams from the Rehab and Documentation Guru. Enjoying a Wawa iced coffee. This one is called Harvest Maple. It's not bad. Anyway, why am I making a video on a Saturday, which is an unusual experience for me? It's because I went out to see a patient today. I got called this morning. I was supposed to have a case opening today, a joint replacement, that did not make it out of the hospital. And so since they weren't out of the hospital, I figured today was my day. I was going to do whatever I wanted. So I was out doing an errand. And while I was out doing the errand, I got a call from my office saying, "Hey, John, could you do a case opening on such and such patient?" And the person at the other end of the phone told me all the comorbidities. And I'm thinking, wow, this really sounds like a nursing one. And she said, "Yeah, nursing can't be out till tomorrow. Can you go do it?" So I called the patient, got no response. Now, the patient had spoken with somebody from our intake office the day before. Called the daughter, got no response. And I did that a couple times. I got to the building. She's in one of these senior living apartment buildings. Tried to get her to answer the door. No response. Fortunately, somebody let me in. And I've been in this particular apartment building numerous times, and generally the patients there leave their doors open because they have friends check on them and stuff. And so I got to this lady's apartment, and I heard the television. Knocked on the door, no response. Knocked again, no response. So I figured, okay, it's probably home. I'm going to go ahead and open the door. So I open the door crack, I call in to the patient, no response. TV's kind of blaring in the background. I open the door a little bit more and step in, and there she is in the kitchen, unfortunately dead. First time I've ever in 29 years found a patient deceased. I've had a patient die on me, unfortunately. I've come to patients' homes and found one patient I found had a stroke, and I arrived to find her bedbound and having been incontinent all over herself. So this was a new experience for me, and I went to the patient. She was cold, already cold, pale, cyanotic lips. You can tell she had been deceased for a while. So I didn't even bother to try to resuscitate her because I knew it was well beyond that. And I figured since I hadn't reached her in the morning, she had been dead for quite some time anyway. So anyway, I called EMS. And the reason I'm making this video is, one, it's kind of cathartic to just talk about it because it kind of freaked me out. My dad passed away about a month and a half ago. And when I went to visit him at the funeral parlor, it's the first time I'd ever put my hands on somebody that had been deceased in a coffin. And of course, he was extremely cold, and that was a weird experience for me because I'd never done it before. But this was a similar feeling, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit to find somebody at that point. And so I knew right away she had been long past. But the reason I am doing this video is because of documentation. And so we don't have any policy that I knew of as what happens when you find somebody dead on arrival. So I called 911, and I explained clearly the situation to the other person on the line. Police came out with EMS. I told them what had happened. They asked me what I had touched. And I had touched the patient, obviously. I had washed my hands in the sink, and I had turned off the television. So I had touched the remote, and I had set my stuff on a chair, which I had subsequently touched. But otherwise, I didn't touch any of the other areas. So I would say, good practice would be obviously don't touch things, because what happens when you discover somebody's passed, there's going to be an investigation. And sure enough, there was a detective that came out, and she showed up roughly 1 hour after my initial encounter with the patient, the deceased. And she asked me questions. And so I just gave her the facts, detail by detail, when I arrived, what I'd done, to get into the apartment, what I discovered, what I had touched. And I had also informed my office while I was waiting for EMS. I had called my office to let the weekend manager know. And then I documented that. I documented in the chart exactly the order of events that had occurred. And you want to be very specific and detailed in your documentation. Now, the detective asked me some specifics about when I called, who was the last person to speak with the patient, and the detective called me back later and said that the daughter had spoken with the patient last night after business hours. So I'm assuming the daughter was the last person to touch base with the patient. But my office, just informed me, which makes sense, is that they don't want to just give this officer, contact information on who was last at our office to contact the patient. And they have a procedure, which they don't know at this point, because we had a relatively new manager on call this weekend and she didn't know what procedure. So if you encounter this situation, obviously you do your due diligence first and contacting EMS. And one thing I didn't do, and so this is on me, I did not check to see if the patient had a do not resuscitate. So if I'd come in and she was still very warm and not responsive, what would I have done? Would I have gone ahead and done CPR? Because I didn't know, and I didn't see anything posted in the place. But I didn't even bother because I could tell she had been deceased for some time. But we want to know that stuff, and I didn't do my diligence on that. So document well, be specific and objective. Try to list chronologically the order of the events that you did, because you're going to have to repeat them to an officer. And just know that you're going to have to deal not only with law enforcement, but also with whatever procedures and policies that your own organization has. Anyway, just wanted to recount that for you. Hope you're having a better day than I had. Fortunately, I wrapped part of it up with spending time with two of my older daughters, looking for a vehicle for them. So that was interesting and fun, because I like cars. And now I'm going to go home. Anyway, take care, God bless, and have a good rest of the weekend.